All right, today we are digging into a huge new strategy, one that could literally reshape the future of technology and green energy. And we're getting our intel from a brand new analyst report from Jefferies that lays out this really bold vision for some of the world's most critical materials.
So, let me just ask you this. What's the one secret ingredient that connects an electric car, a massive wind turbine, and even a high tech drone flying over your head? I'll give you a hint. It's not software, and it's not silicon. Nope. It's a group of materials that most people have never even heard of, but they are absolutely essential.
And here they are. They're called rare earth elements. The best way to think about them is like vitamins for modern technology. You don't need a ton of them, but you absolutely cannot build the high-performance magnets that go into EVs or wind turbines without them. They are completely indispensable for our green transition, and, for our advanced defense tech too. Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. For decades, the global supply chain, we're talking mining and processing these elements, has been concentrated in just a handful of places. And this has created a massive strategic vulnerability for Western economies that are trying to build out their own green tech and defense industries. It's a real problem.
But that might all be about to change, which brings us to the main character in this whole story. A company that is uniquely, and I mean uniquely, positioned to tackle this supply chain challenge head on. And that company is MP Materials. This quote from that Jefferies report really just says it all. They own and operate the Mountain Pass facility right here in the US, which makes them the only site for rare earth production at scale in the entire Western Hemisphere. That's a huge deal.
So with that as the backdrop, let's get to the big news from this report. MP Materials just made a major strategic play that takes their whole mission way beyond America's borders. So check this out. They've just announced a joint venture with Saudi Arabia's state mining company, Ma'aden, and the U.S. Department of Defense. And their goal? To build a massive new rare earths refinery over in Saudi Arabia. Now, the key here is how this deal is structured. The U.S. DoD is providing the financing, while MP brings its technical know-how to the table. For MP Materials, this means they get to expand their processing power with almost no financial risk. It's what you'd call a very capital-light way to grow. Pretty smart.
But you gotta understand, this Saudi deal, it isn't just some one-off project. No, it's actually a key piece of a much larger, way more ambitious plan that the company has been building toward for years now.
Their whole grand strategy is called Mine to Magnet, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They want to control every single step of the process, right here in the West. So they mine the raw material in the US, refine it into oxides, process those into specific metals, and then finally, they manufacture the end product, those super high-performance magnets. This is what a secure, domestic supply chain actually looks like.
But of course, a supply chain is totally useless if you don't have any customers. And this is where the story gets even more compelling. The Jefferies report points out that they have incredibly strong customer engagement already. I mean, they've got GM on board, with magnet production set to start in late 2025. They have foundational agreements with the Department of Defense. And get this, they've already secured a $200 million prepayment from Apple to help build out their recycling capacity. The analysts are so bullish, they're expecting 1 to 2 new major customer deals every single quarter. Okay, so we've seen the problem, we've seen the strategy, now let's get into the numbers. What do the experts over at Jefferies think all of this actually means for the company's future? Well, the first number that just jumps off of the page is their 12-month price target for the stock, $90. That is a massive vote of confidence in this whole strategy. So what's driving that confidence? Well, it comes down to this number, 5x. The report is forecasting that the demand for NdPr, that's the key rare earth metal for magnets, is going to grow 5 times over the next decade. This is the huge long-term wave that's pushing this entire company forward. And if you want to see what that growth could look like, how about this? Analysts are forecasting a staggering 238% jump in revenue by 2026. Why 2026? Because that's the year many of these big expansion projects are expected to really hit their stride and start generating some serious cash. Now, this isn't a sure thing, and the report is very clear about the risks. So their base case is that $90 price target, and that assumes solid execution. But if they stumble, if things go wrong, the downside scenario is $30.
On the flip side, though, if they execute perfectly and the market prices cooperate, the upside scenario is a whopping $150. We are talking about a very high-stakes, high-reward situation here.
This whole investment idea isn't just about one company. It's really a bet on these massive global trends. As Jeffries puts it, this strong demand all hinges on the growth of EVs, the growth of the wind turbine market, and the accelerating demand for robotics. MP Materials is basically positioning itself to be the key supplier for all of these revolutions.
And that really brings us to the ultimate takeaway. When you boil it all down, this entire strategy, from the mine in America all the way to the new refinery in Saudi Arabia, it's all about one thing: building a resilient, secure, non-Chinese rare earth supply chain for the West. So that leaves us with this final, fascinating question. We've just walked through the blueprint for completely reshaping how we source the most critical materials for our future. So, are we witnessing the actual beginning of a brand new global tech supply chain? I guess only time will tell.